Welcome to another episode of the Burt Podcast, where we talk about all things Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Also known as the Hub City or just the Burg, Hattiesburg is a bustling town in southern Mississippi. It's an educational, cultural, business, and medical hub for the region, and we're pleased to share stories from our community.
On today's episode of the Burt Podcast, we have 3 individual stories that have affected their journey in life. First up, we have an interview conducted by Tamaria Fondren as she speaks with the director of the 6th Street Museum District.
I'm Tamaria Fondren for the Burt Podcast, and today I'm interviewing LaToya Norman. My guest is the director of the 6th Street Museum District. So, for those listening, what exactly is the 6th Street Museum District?
The 6th Street Museum District is museums basically on 6th Street. So the first museum that opened in the 6th Street Museum District was the African American Military History Museum, which is the building that we're in right now. The Eureka School, Smith Drug Company, you have 2 in development, the Oso McCarty House, and the MOA Museum. So all of those make up the 6th Street Museum District.
Where did the idea behind preserving the locations within the district come from?
Actually, that came long before I came along. This building that we're sitting in is a historic USO built for African American servicemen who were stationed at Camp Shelby during World War II. And so the building had such rich history with soldiers coming here from all over. This was really a happening place during that time. Community members really embraced the fact that soldiers were here. So they would come, volunteer their time just to make sure soldiers felt at home. After World War II, it became a community center. And so the Eureka School would utilize it. Community members would utilize it. It housed a library for blacks in the community. So it had a very important role in the community for many, many years. And there was a group of veterans who knew the historical significance of the museum, because by 2000, it was just a vacant building that was old, that needed repairs, and they were afraid it would be torn down. And so that group of committee members decided that they would start collecting artifacts of military personnel in the community. And there was one lady by the name of Miss Aula Williams, who used to be the vice mayor in San Jose. Her husband, she and her husband were from Hattiesburg. They moved back here after she retired, and he retired from the military. And she was asked by the mayor at that time to lead the Parks and Recreations Department. She wasn't necessarily interested, but she was interested if and only under one condition, that they would allow her to use this space to allow guests to come in, see it, know the history, and to not tear it down. And so it started with community members, an initiative of primarily veterans, but Miss Aola was someone who was a community member who felt very strongly as well that it should be preserved. And because of those efforts, there was a partnership that was eventually formed between that group, which is now known as the African American Military History Museum Committee, and the organization that I work for, the Hattiesburg Convention Commission, to restore this building back to its original layout in the lobby, and to have it be a museum honoring those men who used to come here so many years ago.
For your role, since you're the director, what role do you play in maintaining the functionality of all of it?
We all wear many hats. So in the district, there are 4 full-time positions, and right now we have 4 part-time positions, and we just do what needs to be done. So from planning events to marketing our events, our goal is always to bring awareness to the museums that we have in the district, because the people that we feature are so important. Their stories are so important, and we just do whatever needs to be done. I have had the pleasure of working here for the last 15 years, and I don't take that lightly, but it takes all of us to keep these doors open.
So concerning the African American Military History Museum specifically, as far as events, exhibits, and other things of that nature, how far ahead does the museum plan?
It really just depends. We try our best, and we're trying to get back in the habit of trying to plan at least a year and ahead, thinking a year and ahead. This year we're celebrating our 15-year anniversary, so we've been thinking about that for quite a while. Whenever there's a milestone, it's easy for us to kind of wrap our mind around thinking about it well in advance. But there are sometimes opportunities that fall in our lap where we just go with the flow. An example would be in 2022, there was a movie that was released about Jesse Leroy Brown, the first African American to complete the Navy flight training program, and he happens to be from Hattiesburg. And we knew that there was a possibility that there would be a special screening here in Hattiesburg, and we definitely wanted to be a part of it. But we don't own the rights to the movie, so we had to follow the pace of the team in California, when they gave us the okay and gave us a date that we could start planning and promoting the event. That's what we did. So it just really depends on the event. We don't want to miss an opportunity because we prefer planning 6 months to a year in advance. So in that particular case, everything went seamless, but we probably only had about 2 months to plan and execute.
Has there been a time, or is it often, that you look at events that have been done in the past and try to reincorporate those, but not on a more upscale, but on a way where it's you're redoing it kind of, so you're looking at what you did and then what you wish you could have done or what you could have done better or things like that?
We have a great education team. They've planned a really dynamic events for Black History Month 2024, but we're always looking at the events that we've had, trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work, how did our community respond to the event. So we're always willing to make changes, to be flexible, and sometimes, if it's not broke, we're not trying to fix it, but if there's something we can do to improve it, we will. And there are occasions where we will plan an event and we feel like we probably didn't reach our target audience, so let's just completely revamp it and see if we can make some changes that would make more sense and bring in more people.
You mentioned earlier that there were 2 locations within the museum district that were in development.
Yes.
There was that the Osceola McCarty House and
the Mobile Museum. So there's 2 in development. You have the Osceola McCarty House and the Mobile Museum. The Osceola McCarty House, we actually moved her home from a location not too far from here, but we moved it to the 6th Street Museum District because her story is very inspirational. Her being just an ordinary washerwoman who saved every single penny of the money that she didn't use towards necessities and decided later in life that she was going to give more than half of what was left to the university so that students who looked like her could have an opportunity to pursue higher education. So that is in development. That will be a museum that is all about her life, her legacy, and we're looking forward to that hopefully opening in 2025. But that will be a museum, a house museum, that focuses specifically on her story and her accomplishments and the people who have benefited from that particular scholarship. We have the Mola Museum that's directly across from this building, which will allow us to have military vehicles on display. We're building a building. We actually were contacted by a retiree, Army retiree from Georgia, who had a collection of vehicles, 13 vehicles, and he wanted them to go to a space where they would create hands-on fun, which is what he felt like we've done with our attractions. And so that building you can see across the street is already being erected, and so we anticipate an opening of that sometime before the end of this year.
I've also noticed that the last time I was here on this tour, when we finished at the wall. What's the name of that wall?
Generation Strong Wall.
Generation Strong Wall. There was a QR code. So that made me think about how social media has impacted like the outreach of the 6th Street Museum District.
We are constantly trying to figure out the algorithms and what works and what doesn't work. We have a social media intern this semester who is working with us because the audience that we feel like we keep missing, even though we do have some engagement with them, is the universities. We want to connect with college students. That's why I was so excited when I received your email and that you were interested in coming here. But a lot of times young people don't know that we're here. We've worked with the university to make sure that freshmen, when they come in, that if there is some kind of orientation, or I think they now explore downtown, that they can come to the district so they're aware that we exist. But what we find in many cases is that a lot of college students don't know that we exist. And so what's really great about having a social media intern who's at the university, they speak that language and they can help us package ourselves on social media so that we're attractive to them, because we want to be a space that's all inclusive. We want to make sure that we're reaching a diverse group, young, old, and everything in between. And so social media has definitely helped us get the word out about the events that we have going on here in the district.
How has working within this community helped not only enrich your professional life, but your personal life as well?
Working here and learning the stories that I've learned has gave me a greater appreciation for the veterans that come here in this museum. It has given me a great appreciation for the people of Hattiesburg, because there are some very inspiring, influential people who are right here from Hattiesburg. I love working with youth. When young people come in, I think it's important that they can see themselves or see an aspect of themselves. Jesse Leroy Brown's story is one that I feel like resonates with so many, because he was right here from Hattiesburg. His parents were sharecroppers, so they were not rich. He was born in 1926, and so he grew up during a time where black people were oppressed, and he had a dream of one day being a pilot. And so for people around him, that felt to them very unrealistic for this young kid to say, hey, I want to be a pilot. But no, he not only wanted to be a pilot, but he put a plan in action. And so I think that inspires people who may come from beginnings where they don't have access to certain opportunities. It lets them know that, no, you can do it. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be necessarily exposed to travel to one day be a pilot. But what you do have to do is work hard, make good grades. And so that's the message that we try to convey to young people who come here. So personally, it's just given me a greater appreciation for veterans, for community members, for some of the people of Hattiesburg that we have featured. And I've been fortunate enough to meet several really, really incredible men and women. And so I don't take that lightly. And that's something that professionally and personally I've definitely grown because of it.
Is there anything that I haven't touched on that you would like to cover or expand upon?
Yes, I did mention that the Eureka School, so the Eureka School will be a museum as well. I think one of your questions was which was the oldest in the district. Yes. And so the Eureka School is the oldest. It opened in 1921. So we celebrated 100 years not too long ago, and so that was really fun. We had a program called Tea Cakes and Conversation, where community members were able to come out and just talk about their memories of Eureka, because it was a school from 1921 to 1987. And that is a space right now that we utilize for temporary travel and exhibitions. We do have a gallery hall, and so we open it occasionally when we have a traveling exhibition by appointment. And we have Smith Drug Company, which is one of the newest in the district as well. It opened in 2022, so we are approaching our 2-year anniversary of it being open. But it pays homage to two men. The first person, E. Hammond Smith, the first owner of Smith Drug Company, he owned it and operated it from 1921 to 1980. And at that time, his mentee, who had been working for him as a registered pharmacy, purchased the building and kept it going until 1996. And so we're honored to be able to have that open every Saturday from 12 to 4. You can come learn about those men and just reminisce and go back in time the same way you do in this space. All of our attractions allow you to go back in time because they're historic spaces. And then Generation Strong Wall, it opened last year in February. We just celebrated 1 year of it being here. And that is open to the public from sunup to 10 p.m. It's actually backlit, a really beautiful display where you can, like you mentioned earlier, scan a QR code and just learn about some incredible people from Hattiesburg, trendsetters. And so we just encourage everyone to, bring a friend to the district. There's something for everybody. And this space is for all, to enjoy.
Thank you for joining us today. And I'm Tamaria for the Berg Podcast.
On our next segment, we listen to Raven Payne with her take on her mother's illness.
There are a lot of things that describes my mother. She will have my back through everything and support me through everything. She embraces me through all my problems and surrounds me with nurturing and warmness, which I can count on in times of being sick. And one thing my mother always does is provide a safe environment to keep me sheltered from certain things. I can go all day about things I can describe about my mother, who is my world. But it's one thing that every child fears about their mother: sickness or death. My worst fear came to life when my mother had problems with her thyroid. The thyroid is a small butterfly-shaped gland located at the front of a person's neck under the skin. It is part of the endocrine system and controls many of the body's needed functions by producing and releasing certain hormones. The main job is to control the speed of metabolism, which is the process of how the body transforms the food it consumes into energy. When the thyroid is not working properly, it can impact your entire body. When my mother got diagnosed with her thyroid gland being swollen at her doctor's appointment, I was so confused about this discovery. She was confused too, but the more she got informed, the more she worried about her and my health. She was asking about treatments, medications, conditions, different options to treat thyroid problems, everything. My mother wanted to know everything to prevent anything serious for my and her health. She asked if she could take the medications to help her, and the doctor said yes, but not until the surgery. When surgery appears in my mind, I immediately fear for the worst. The situation scared me so badly that I did not want to stay longer to hear the rest. The type of problem of thyroid she had was underactive, and the thyroid surgery was a surgery she needed to remove it. Underactive thyroids happen when the thyroid does not produce and release enough thyroid hormones. This causes aspects of your metabolism to slow down. Thyroid surgery removes all or part of the thyroid gland, which is in the front of the neck. It is a major operation. Synthroid medication is taken by mouth. It returns hormone levels to a healthy range, removing symptoms of underactive thyroid. When we got home from the doctor, I was so worried about the surgery that I started crying to my mother about not having the surgery. I didn't want anything going wrong with my mother doing this surgery, and it made me nervous to the point I wanted to find another way besides the surgery. My mother hugged me and told me not to worry about it too much. She told me to pray over her and just trust in God. I followed her word, and as the days approached the surgery, I continued to trust in God. On the day of 4 hours after the surgery happened, the doctors told me my mother was okay. I was so relieved. I ran and cried to my mother and thanked God at the same time. My mother always told me to always trust in God because He has the final say. I was so happy that the surgery went okay and that my mother can make a full recovery. As I think back then, I must remember that my mother will not always be at her top form to where she cannot be superhero every time. I must look after her too. She will not always be there for me. As much as I need her, I will have to say goodbye to her someday. But until that day happens, my mother will always be my mother, my superhero. Even though your mom is your everyday superhero for you and always makes sacrifices for you, make sure that love is returned and shared. Make sure to always appreciate your mother's love and care because one day you will wish you would have done so. I'm Raven Payne for the Burt Podcast.
Lastly, we take a look into a marketing student's perspective at the University of Southern Mississippi. Madison Cochran has this report.
Desiree Rodriguez has served as a creative design intern at the Walter Anderson Museum of Art and is currently the creative marketing intern at Burt Agency. Despite both internships being related to marketing, she's experienced vast differences in each role.
It was a lot of kind of like merchandise design. I looked at their store and created some different designs that I wanted to suggest for mugs and for t-shirts, things like that to kind of cultivate a brand.
However, her internship with Burt Agency has looked a little different.
But my internship with them has been a lot of shadowing. So every single week, what that has looked like is I have gone around and shadowed different workers. So I shadowed the brand department first, and that was me learning about graphic design, learning about logo design, and kind of what makes a really powerful brand for a company. And then I went to the marketing office.
Through these experiences, Rodriguez is equipped to handle whatever the future brings, no matter what.
I still have those valuable skills that I can bring into any sort of marketing realm. So that's been amazing.
Rodriguez has realized the value of internships and was very vocal when it came to promoting and encouraging others to apply for them.
I really encourage internships for anyone. I think that there is nothing wrong with reaching out to a company you really love and asking if they have an internship available.
It is common that internships are unpaid, but Rodriguez provided great information on how to receive funding as a USM student.
I applied for the Pathway Scholarship through Southern Miss, and what that is they paid for my time at that internship, although it was technically unpaid through Walter Anderson. So they gave me payment per hour that Walter Anderson would have given me if they had a structured internship.
Rodriguez is a great role model for students here at Southern Miss. Her tenacity and drive to learn more and enhance her skills are truly admirable. I'm Madison Calkins with the Burt Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Burt Podcast. This podcast is totally produced by students in Dr. Dave Davies' MCJ 344 podcasting class in the School of Media and Communication at the University of Southern Mississippi. Producers for this episode are Madison Calkins, Sydney Stokes, Michaela Williams, and Denari Washington. Music from Upbeat. See the link in our About page for more information. Cover artwork by Madison Calkins and Greta Graves.